What's going on, everyone? So Death is finally coming back to the big screen in IMAX this time. I'm not sure if any of the other movies were in IMAX. I could be wrong, but nonetheless, we're getting another Final Destination movie in the theaters again. Thank God my prayers have been answered. I've been waiting for this movie for so damn long. It's one of my favorite franchises, if not my favorite, and one of my favorite horror movies ever is Final Destination 3. So I have been just itching, waiting for this damn thing like a crack addict, just needing another hit of another Final Destination movie to calm me down. And finally, I got to see an early test screening for Final Destination Bloodlines. I'm recording this weeks in advance. They released a teaser trailer. There hasn't been an official trailer yet, but back in November last year, I got to see one of the first few test screenings for this film, and it was a blast. So I will be releasing this spoiler free, by the way, about the test screening and the test screening experience. I want to talk about what that was like. It was my first test screening, probably my last one too, because they're always in like New York or LA, both sides of the country that I'm nowhere close to. So, uh, yeah, I'm a diehard fan. I was willing to fly all the way to California just to see this movie. So that tells you something, right? Um, but yeah, when I'll release this spoiler-free test screening review whenever other people start releasing their reviews, like whenever the critics start tweeting about it and giving their thoughts, I'll release this. Probably maybe at the latest, this will probably drop Thursday the night before. And then I'll do a separate video that's a spoiler, more detailed, my thoughts on the movie. This will just be more vague, as vague as possible, spoiler-free review. And so yeah, last year, I got to see this through a site called One Iota. I think, yeah, One Iota, and I got like this as a memento now of my trip to LA to see this movie. It was November 19th that I got to see the test screening, and holy shit. It was a surreal experience. I remember I signed up for the first test screening in July. I did not get accepted. And then flash forward to November, I see the director of this movie, Adam Stein. This movie was directed by two people, so that's the first for this series, Adam Stein and Zach Lipovsky. But Adam Stein, he tweeted about another test screening, and I just so happened to catch it. I don't know what made me look him up that day. I'm not always following him, but I just looked him up that day, a few hours after he had tweeted this, and I immediately went and signed up a second time through One Iota. And this was like November 12th. And then 2 days later, I got the notification that I was accepted, and I felt like I had won the lottery. Like my heart was racing. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. I was like in disbelief, like holy shit. Now I gotta plan a vacation to LA, and plan these other things to do in case somehow this doesn't work out, because they always leave that asterisk there that says like we give out more tickets than there are seats. So there was always that possibility of not even like getting inside, which would have been worst case scenario, spending hundreds of dollars to fly to LA and then have the doors shut in your face. So but thank God that did not happen. So yeah, I had to plan a LA trip very quickly. And so if you don't want to hear this flat, just skip forward. I'm going to be as quick about this as possible. I just want to talk about the experience of going to a test screening, what that's like, in case you haven't been to one. I had no idea what to expect. Like in my head, I was picturing like 2 or 3 rows of like 10 seats, like a small crowd, not like a huge theater with 300 seats or something. Like there was a lot of seats there, so which is good, which means that there was a better possibility of getting inside. So, anyways, I get there a little early. The site said don't line up before this time. I got there like 10, 15 minutes before that time, and there's already like half a dozen people lining up. So they're breaking the rules right away. I'm not sure if One Iota is like this all the time, but there was a lot of rules that they were breaking, and these workers were contradicting each other left and right. There'd be a worker saying, if you have your phone on you, go back to the car, which this theater in Burbank, California, like it was like a huge area with a theater attached, and you had to like walk down all these stairs through a garage and down multiple floors to get to your car. I wasn't going to make that trip to put my phone back in my car and lose my spot in line, you know? But thank God I didn't listen to that dumbass, because then another person working there was like, all right, take out your phones. I need to scan something to let you in. So it's like you have one person saying you can't have a phone on you, and then a minute later, like, hey, take out your phone. I need to scan something. So that was annoying. Um, and then so I get inside. I'm one of the first like 10 people in line. So I get middle row, middle seats, just perfect seating. And it's a nice big screen. I see the producers, the writers, the directors, just executive producers, New Line people, Warner Brothers people. Like it was just surreal. It was like seeing all these celebrities. To me, I actually like recognize them because I've been a fan of this franchise for a long time, so I know like who Craig Perry is, what he looks like, and Craig Perry was in the same row as me, like 10 seats to my right, and even like locked eyes with me at one point. And I was wondering, like, does he recognize me? Because he actually commented on one of my YouTube reviews of Final Destination 5. So part of me was like wondering, like, I wonder if he even recognizes me. I'm wearing the same hat that I always wear. Um, but I doubt he recognized me. But it was just so cool to see him. And the directors were there, and the producers were in the row right in front of me. And then they have a guy right before the movie starts come out, give like a brief introduction. He's warning everybody about like, there's incomplete effects, CGI shots, stuff like that. There's ADR, so like some parts like their words won't match their mouth or something like that. They just give you like they show like a demo reel, like what they're talking about. Like, see, like this, it could look like this. So just be prepared. It's not all completed. There was a temp score. They hadn't hired Tim Wynn to do the composing for the film yet, so it was all just music that won't be there when I see it again theatrically. So I'm very curious to see. It's fun. I get to see this movie like twice for the first time in a way. Like they might have changed the ending again. Who knows? And they might have tweaked a death scene. And I'm going to see some of those CGI shots completed now. And opening credits. There was no opening credits. There was no closing credits to the movie. It opened with a tribute to Tony Todd, like in loving memory, because this was like I saw this November 19th, and Tony Todd had just died like a week before. So, and then the audience reacted to that. And everyone was like, "Oh, like it just." And everyone was very saddened, but also like touched to see that. Like I wonder if they're gonna keep that in the final film at the beginning or at the end. I hope they do because he's a big part of the franchise. He deserves that tribute in the film. But anyways, yeah. And then at the end of the movie, I'll just end on this before I get into the film. At the end of the screening, they give you, in the old days, they would give you a paper, and you physically have to write all your answers down. But in this one, it was a tablet. You just like hit buttons, like grading people. It was like 30 plus questions about the movie, the characters, the kills, the opening sequence, the ending sequence, specific little scenes here and there. Like, how did you feel about this scene? And was this the opening disaster? It's like too long, too short. How would you grade this actor, this character, this kill, yada yada. And so I was one of the last people to finish this. Some people didn't even do it. They're just like, yeah, I came here to see a free movie. Fuck this tablet, and they just walked out. It's like, dude, they want your thoughts. And I was one of the last people. I was like really giving detailed thoughts, typing away, like, all right, I think you should, leave that in, take that out, tweak this, because I'm trying to help. I'm giving giving them my thoughts, my 2 cents. I'm a diehard fan, so I want to help this movie any way I can. But anyways, so yeah, let's get into the movie. Pros, cons, all that stuff. Spoiler free. I'm not gonna bother reading a plot synopsis. You can read it yourself. It's available. Some people think plot synopsis, whatever. Some people think that that's spoiler. Not there's some weirdos out there that think everything's a spoiler. Don't tell me what the plot is. Don't tell me who's in it. Like people want to go in as blind as possible. So I'm gonna try to be as spoiler free as possible. First positive I can say about this movie is that thank God it's not bad. There were many red flags over the years, just one after the other, when I was hearing about like who was going to write it, who was going to direct it, like who are these people? And I'm not a fan of the Scream movies. One of the two writers of this movie did the Scream movies, 5 and 6, and now 7, I think. And one of the other writers is this woman, Laurie Evans Taylor, who I've never heard of, and she's only written and directed one other movie that I've never seen called Bed Rest. So I was like, okay. So I didn't know what to expect from her, but I knew what to expect from Guy. I don't like his Scream movies. A lot of people do for whatever reason, but it's just not my cup of tea. So I was like, okay, there's red flag. And then the directors, like, okay, they did the Kim Possible Disney live action movie, and then they did one of them did like Leprechaun Origins, one of the worst Leprechaun movies that's not even about a leprechaun, really. So I was just like, okay, this is not looking good. And then they come out with the title, Bloodlines. If you're a horror fan, like a real diehard horror fan who knows all the other Bloodlines movies, like the recent Pet Cemetery, Tremors, Hellraiser. I'm sure there's another one I'm missing. They're all they got one thing in common. They're all terrible. And this movie is easily the best horror film with the Bloodlines title, and it actually fits the story, the new formula, the spin on the formula that they put here. It's death stalking a family, so Bloodlines makes sense. It's not just something they just randomly threw in there. And I like the new spin here, the whole idea of death stalking a family, because in the past it's always been classmates, co-workers, just best friends. Now it's a family, so all these characters are much more tighter. They all know each other, and they're all connected, so therefore it would make sense for all these characters to always be around each other, whereas in the past it always kind of felt like a contrivance, like too forced, like how these characters kept like bumping into each other and hanging around each other, like in part two, like it's a bunch of strangers, like, and then part four, like how they keep finding these other people. So I think it was smart from a writing standpoint to have all the characters be related, and it keeps the continuity going. It does not ignore any of the other films. It's in the timeline of the. It's a sequel to all the other five movies, and they even directly acknowledge some of them and the rules that have been set up before. They're still the rules. They're not ignoring one rule like, all right, that doesn't exist. Here's a new rule. Like the whole, new life defeats death that they said in part two, kill somebody, you get their life in part five. Like they don't ignore any of that stuff. So they're keeping the continuity strong and going. So I very much appreciate that. As someone who's a stickler to continuity, I hate when movies ignore or just break, like like the Chucky franchise does sometimes, and like the Halloween. It just irks me. And this movie, like a lot of the other ones, has Easter eggs and references to the other films, things for the fans to enjoy. And the opening disaster, I won't say what it is because that would be a spoiler to some people. They don't even want to know where it is, so I won't say. But this opening disaster, what happens, it is top three opening disasters of the franchise. Uh, easily top three. It's up there for me. Went like up there with like the roller coaster and the bridge collapse. Those are my two favorites. This is up there right along with them, and I love that it builds up the anticipation because you know it's coming. Like the formula of the franchise. You know there's going to be a disaster, but it does a it's good at building up suspense and anticipation for when shit hits the fan. And the acting is good for the most part. From I won't say everybody, but and there's no real recognizable faces. There's no big star in this, which I also like because sometimes that can kind of take you out of a movie. Like in part five, when you see like David Keckner, you're like, wow, I know this guy from like 100 other movies, and so it's just like you just see that person as the actor and not the character. In this one, besides Tony Todd, I was like, I don't recognize anybody. So I liked that. And so acting good. It's not Final Destination 4 acting, not even close. That one's still the worst. Um, Most of the humor lands. There's a lot of humor in this movie, and arguably, I would say this is the most comedic Final Destination film. Like I just felt like there was a lot of humor, but thankfully most of it lands. And the death sequences. All right, the Rube Goldberg, the style of kills that this franchise is known for is still very much in this movie, and even more so than I expected. I wasn't expecting as much like Rube Goldberg type shit in this movie as we got, and you even see some of that in the teaser trailer with the tattoo parlor sequence. How like this bumps into this and this and this. Like it's that crazy with almost like every death scene, and I appreciate that. It's done very cleverly, a little contrived at times. Like yeah, whatever, that would never happen, but still, it's fun, and I appreciated the attempt to have that Rube Goldberg, set up to all the kills. Um, There's good fake outs, good suspense building, and one scene in particular with Uncle Howard, that whole sequence with Uncle Howard and the family hanging out. Like, there's all these things that are being set up, good fake outs, good suspense building in that sequence. Probably that's one of the standout sequences to me, one of my favorites. And this franchise continues the music theme, the creepy music, like with ironic, like messaging or foreshadowing lyrics, that the franchise has done time and time again. It started with John Denver in the first one, Highway to Hell in the second one, Love Roller Coaster, and There's Someone Walking Behind You, that song in part three. Uh, part four, I think, had one. I can't remember it right now, but part five had Dust in the Wind. And then, oh yeah, the Why Can't We Be Friends playing when the racist gets killed. So this one continues that again, and it was also in the trailer. The Air Supply song, Living Without You, or whatever. So I like that they keep that going. That's another part of the franchise I love. Um, the movie confirms, this is a spoiler to talk about, so I'll say this very vaguely. There's something in this movie that confirms what I've always suspected about something in the franchise. All right, so it confirms something, a theory of mine. So there's that. All right, now let's get into the things I didn't like. Cons. The biggest negative for this movie. Now, again, this was a test screening. I don't know how much polishing they're going to do to the final product here when it comes out theatrically, May 16th. Hopefully, they fixed this, but the CGI gore was very noticeable. Not just the CGI set pieces, the opening disaster. I'm sure that will look a lot better, but that didn't even look that bad. What I saw in the test screening, but there were some spots I was like, all right, yeah, they're definitely gonna have to fix that by May. But the gore with the kills, oh boy, like I don't think anything in this movie was done practically. It's just all CGI, all in camera, no cutaway, cut back to like a dummy. It was all like in camera, person dying, no cutaway, CGI, blood, CGI this. It was just like, okay, like this franchise, I don't think it's known for its practical effects really, but the way in the past they've done kills is they do a little bit of practical and a little bit of like CG, like green screen, but they they put the two together. I think it's called like a comp shot or something. I'm not a filmmaker, but there's a term for it, like a where they combine a green screen, like a dummy, with the person, and they blend the images together, and it looks more convincing. In this, it just looked like they just kept the actor there and did some CGI shit on top of it. There was no attempt to like build a dummy and do on set blood. It was just like, let's just do all in post. That's what it felt like. I could be wrong. Some of it might have been a combination of CG and practical, but to me, it just all felt CG, no practical. So hopefully that all gets corrected or fixed, looks better when I see it completed in the theater. Fingers crossed. But that was the biggest, most like disappointing distraction of the film. Another thing that was distracting, and again, this will be fixed hopefully, is Tony Todd's voice was not his voice. They like dubbed. Or maybe he was just so sick at the time that he sounded like a different human being. But I think it was even confirmed online. Other people were leaking that there was dubbing of Tony Todd, and it very much sounded like it. His voice sounded like a completely different person, and that was jarring because I couldn't even focus on his dialogue. It was that bad. Like he's like saying this important information to the characters, doing what he always does in the other movies, exposition, and I'm like, I can't even hear what you're saying. I'm just focusing on your voice. It's not your voice. So hopefully they fix that. And there was one jarring, quick flashback edit. They just like flashed something that happened earlier over the screen. I guess the character was thinking about it, but it was so like out of nowhere, and it was jarring, and it made the audience laugh like uncomfortably, like, whoa, what was that, where did that come from? um that's a nitpick, that's nothing major. I will say, as funny as the movie was, as much as the humor landed for the most part, I did take issue with there being too much humor in spots where it wasn't necessary, where it started to like undercut the horror of what was happening in that scene. Like the scenes could have been more scary, more suspenseful had they just trimmed out some jokey shots and lines here and there. Like, just make it about the kill, not the humor. Take the humor out of this scene here, this kill here. Like, my favorite kill in the movie gets slightly ruined by humor. That they just one shot, they could take it right out, and the scene would be better for it, in my opinion. The character, there's one character that I just did not like for many reasons, and that was Grandma. All right, the Grandma Iris, everything about her, just the set design of it was just over the top. The dialogue, her acting, it was hammy. The just dialogue was corny, cringe at times, and I just wish that whole scene. That was like the first scene in the movie. It's kind of early on. It's like beginning of Act Two. It was like the first moment in the theater where I just started to feel like, oh, like please tell me it does not. It's not going to be this bad for the rest of the movie. Please tell me it gets better. And I think that was probably my least favorite scene by far. I just did not like the way that whole scene was handled, directed, written. I just wish it would have been played out differently. Um, in this movie, there's no clues given. Um, in this whole franchise, in every movie, they do the clues thing differently in every movie. So I'm not. So but like in part one, Alex, he like it's the paper that falls on his lap that says Todd, or he sees ashes, foreshadowing the house on fire, like things like that. And then the second one and fourth one, they both do like the mini visions in the character's head, which I wasn't a big fan of. In part three, they do the photographs, which I like, that foreshadow deaths. In part five, they don't do anything. The main character in part five does not see extra visions in his head. He doesn't have little things happen around him that foreshadow future kills, like nothing. So this movie took part five's approach to the clues, and that is that there is no clues. Not that I saw. I didn't see anything that was foreshadowing a death later. There was no mini visions in the main character's head. Stephanie is the main character in this movie. Yeah, she didn't. There was no clues, so that felt a little lazy to me from a writing standpoint. It's like, you can't. That's one of the fun things from the other movies. Um, at least for me personally, like, I like the photos in part three, and I like what happened with Alex in part one, like seeing the bus in the reflection, but he looks over here, it's not there, that kind of stuff. Like, there's none of that stuff in part five, or in this movie. And another thing is this franchise, after like the first movie, it all became about different locations, different set pieces. Where can death kill you? Turning everyday places you go to into nightmares and make you paranoid about them when you weren't before, like car washes, acupuncture, laser eye surgery, a gym, a drive-through, tanning bed, you name it. Like the sequels, just every death had to be a brand new, unique location that we've never been to before. That's gone here in this movie. All right. Um, if you consider that a spoiler, I don't care. I don't think so. In fact, I'm trying to warn you. I'm trying to give you some idea of what to expect. Don't be going into the theater like, I wonder if they're going to take a death scene to a bowling alley or this place or that place. Like, no, it's not going to be many new places. It's really the teaser trailer that came out. I think they chose that scene to show you because it's like the one cool, visually interesting new place that we've never been before in the franchise outside of the opening disaster. Everywhere else in the movie, it's like, that's not a cool place. We've been here before. Like, so yeah, that's kind of a small thing to some, but to me, it's like I wanted to see death in new places. Make me scared of new places. Take it to a bowling alley. Take it to, I don't know, a fucking haunted hayride. Just get creative. Make this a Halloween movie. That would be kind of cool. Final Destination in a Halloween setting. You could do all kinds of things with that. Zip lining. Get creative, But this was just nowhere new besides the tattoo parlor sequence. So, yeah, just want to warn you guys, let you know what to expect in terms of locations. Um, but yeah, just the kills. I think they leave more to be desired. Like the setups to the kills were good. The Rube Goldberg stuff, like I said, that was all great, cleverly written, good suspense building, some sequences here and there, some good like fake outs, good homages, but the payoff, like good setups, kind of lackluster payoff with the death sequences because of the gore. Also, like that doesn't help. If they were gory, I might forgive that they're not really all that creative, But it's just the CGI blood and stuff really just took me out of it. The kills could have been better. I don't think there's any kill in this movie that I would be like, yeah, that's like top 10 of the franchise. I don't think any kill in this movie would make my top 10 or many other people's top 10s. Not to say that they're all shit. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they could have been better. Setups are good, payoff is weak. Just fix the gore, make it more gory, make it more practical, fix the CGI, and we could have had an even better Final Destination movie. But still enjoyed the movie overall. I can't wait to see it again in theaters, to see what they do with it, what the music's going to sound like, if they're going to do a cool opening credit sequence like they've done in a lot of the other sequels, like 3, 4, and 5, and if they're going to fix some of the CGI, alternate ending maybe that they shot after I saw it. Who knows? Things happen. So can't wait to see it again. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this movie in the comments below. If you've seen it yet, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the spoiler heavy video where I will talk more specifically about the kills and the locations and some extra things in the movie that I can't talk about here. Talk more about Tony Todd's character and stuff like that. And yeah, so in the opening disaster, I was pretty vague about that, so I could talk more about that in the spoiler video. So I'll see you there. And until next time, adios.